and welcome to the Doofcast, the official variety podcast of doofmedia.com. My name is Scott Daly, and welcome to my absolutely, totally solo podcast, the Doofcast.
And I'm Matt Freeman, and good one, Scott.
Who are you?
Oh my God.
This week on the show, it is another one of our Council of Doof episodes. Matt, what are these things all about?
Well,
I mean, not Matt, strange person that I don't remember. What are these things all about?
Well, my name's in the script here. So once a month, those individuals that donate to us on Patreon at the Council of Doof level will get to collectively decide on a movie for the community to consider for interest into the Doof canon. Scott and I and maybe some guests will meet, talk about the movie, and then present our case for why it should or should not be admitted.
But as always, we leave that final decision up to you fine people listening at home. So stick around, listen to our arguments, and find the link in the show notes of this very episode where you can go cast your vote. Matt, what has the council brought to us this month?
This week, the council has put forth the 2004 film Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind.
Oh, wow. A classic, a modern classic, as they say, although it's been almost 2 decades, so maybe it's not modern anymore. I don't know. I can't keep track of these things.
Yeah, I was sort of shocked to think about how long this movie has lived with me when I realized how old it is.
Yeah. So we're going to have a full spoilers discussion of Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. We're going to give our vote, and then we're going to wrap up this week's episode with a quick review of the newest Marvel Cinematic Universe film, Black Widow. So that's the episode.
All right.
Let's get right into it and talk about Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind.
Hello, I'm Howard Mirziak, founder and president of Lacuna Incorporated. Why remember a destructive love affair? Here at Lacuna, we have perfected a safe, effective technique for the focused erasure of troubling memories. In a matter of hours, our patented non-surgical procedure will rid you of painful memories and allow you a new and lasting peace of mind you'd never imagined possible.
This is a hoax, right?
I assure you no.
Is there any risk of brain damage?
It's on a par with a night of heavy drinking. Nothing you'll miss.
Matt, what is this movie all about?
When their relationship turns sour, a couple undergoes a medical procedure to have each other erased from their memories.
This movie was directed by Michel Gondry and, of course, written by our favorite guy, Mr. Charlie Kaufman.
Favorite guy, yep.
Yeah, I think Charlie Kaufman's a great place to start this conversation, Matt, because Charlie Kaufman is one of those writers / directors that I first watched at a very specific time in my life and fell in love with. And, you know, this interesting thing about Kaufman and an interesting thing about this movie, because I feel like there are times in your life where, you know, you watch a movie at a specific time in your life and it like means everything to you at that specific time in your life. And then you grow up, you change, you maybe revisit the movie and go, oh, I don't really feel the same way about this movie. Or maybe not even that I don't like the movie as much, but like the movie doesn't speak to me as much on a personal level because I've moved beyond the phase in my life where it did that. The weird thing about me with Charlie Kaufman is every single one of these movies speak to me the same way they did the first time I saw them, possibly more so the older I get, the more I revisit them. And I don't know if there's another screenwriter / director out there that does that for me.
Yeah, I think his insights into human nature, which he's portraying through his fiction, are important, big, deep insights, and thus they don't, you know, they are mature, and so as you get older, you don't grow out of them because, I mean, it's kind of easy to impress a young person, but he is. I mean, God, like, I mean, this movie. I guess I'll just say this is my favorite Charlie Kaufman movie. I think this is his simplest story, and I mean that as a positive, because sometimes his stories become very abstract and convoluted in a way that is very fun. But this movie benefits from kind of a simple, cutting to the core science fiction premise that speaks directly to a feeling that everyone has had who has been through heartbreak. That oh, I'd do anything to get rid of this pain. I would even erase the memories, including all of the good times, to get rid of this pain. And then it's an exploration of this concept, the sort of idea where it's already a brilliant idea. And then, of course, he explores it in the way that only Charlie Kaufman can do. He's definitely one of those writers where every time I watch one of his movies, I'm just like, oh, why do I even try to write things? Because he's just operating at a whole different level than, most things that you consume, frankly.
Sure. Yeah, and I guess I my revisit to this movie, I was kind of expecting this to not work as well on me because, yeah, I mean, when this movie came out, I was 19 years old. I was in the middle of my insane, like late teens, early 20s of, oh my God, I need to fall in love. I need to be in love. I need to be in a relationship. Like I need these things more than anything. And there's something very specific about how this movie talks about those relationships. I think honestly, I had just, believe it or not, folks, Scott Daly, not a ladies' man. Did not have a lot of experience with women until I got to college. And this is I think this movie came out after one of my first big relationships ended, I think. And so it really spoke to me on that very specific level at the time. And I was just expecting it to not work as well on me this time around. And I know I'm repeating myself now, but I was just shocked at how well this movie plays for a 35-year-old man who's married with a kid. It just still, everything that it's doing still resonates with me.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's interesting. You said earlier that it lands the same for you, and I was reflecting on that. I didn't reply immediately because I was actually considering, does it land the same for me? I don't think it lands exactly the same, but it's not like I grew out of it. It's like I have a different ordering of priorities. Like for example, I think I used to be on Joel's side when he's like, "You're not ready to have a kid, Clementine. Your life is chaos." Mm-hmm. And now that I'm just older, I'm just like, "Fuck you, Joel." Clementine would have probably just got her shit together really quickly if she wanted to have a kid, because it's not that hard to get organized when you have those sorts of pressures looming over you. I know this from experience. And that's just like one example of the ways in which I think I was sort of self-inserting into Joel when I was younger, and now I see them as much more like balanced sides where I can totally see both characters' flaws equally.
Sure.
If not more of Joel's flaws, because we spend more time with Joel.
Yeah, I mean, that's the interesting thing about this rewatch, actually, is this is one thing. This is a movie about memory, right? And I think one of the interesting things that this movie almost by choice doesn't explore is the malleability of memory, because we really, with the exception of the bookends of this story, really our only window into who Clementine is as a person is through Joel's memories. And so is this an accurate representation of who she was, or is this just how he's remembering her, Mm-hmm. And I don't think the movie ever really faces that fact. I think it's not the thing it's dealing with. I think it's more dealing with the way you recall certain memories and ignore other memories, and then having to face both the good and the bad kind of changes your perspective a little bit. But I mean, I just thought that was really interesting. And I agree with you that Joel really kind of tries to build himself up as the sympathetic one in the relationship. Like, Clem's a mess. She's all over the place. She's awful. But you can kind of see the ways in which he's not great either. Like, he's just kind of miserable and ho-hum. And when he gets angry, he doesn't confront. He just mumbles. The line where she talked about you always fucking mumble really spoke to me this time, because yeah, he kind of does. He kind of does always just mumble instead of saying what he wants, just being firm and consistent with what he wants. I feel like he lets her drive the relationship until he doesn't like what's happening, and then he pushes back at the very last minute.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think I've just radically changed how I see human relationships since I first saw this. So in all those ways, I think I've I think when I was younger, it still seemed like a sad ending to me, and now it doesn't. And it's interesting because I only just finished it a little bit ago, so I haven't really quite processed why that is. But I think it's just because I think, number one, I noticed some things that I hadn't ever noticed before. For example, well, I can't grasp a specific example, but in general, it seems like their interactions in the present, whatever whatever reference frame we're using,
Sure.
seem to
just use hair color. Blue hair, Clem.
yeah, blue hair color seem to indicate that they actually have changed and they're no longer the people that they were before. They're no longer the people that they were when they met. They have the person that Joel is not the person who Clementine first met. He's kind of a better version of himself. He's a more he's a bolder person. You're basically seeing the result of Clementine rubbing off on him, and I think maybe some of him rubbing off on Clementine, although we see less of that, and then they erase each other, but they don't erase the effects that they had on each other.
Yeah.
And God, I'm having a hard time. It's just the way he behaves. He seems to be way more like game for her adventures in the blue hair timeline than he ever was. When he was so boring. In the earliest memories that he has of himself.
Yeah, I mean, he calls her, right? Like, I mean, I think that's the big signifier of that is, we learned that in the first time they met each other, he bailed. He
Mm-hmm.
was freaking out. They had broken into a house and he couldn't deal with it, and he just bailed and left.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the beginning, he kind of almost does the same thing where he's at her house and he doesn't, like, she wants him to spend the night and he decides to go. But she gives him his number and he calls her, which is like different from any other interaction we've had. Every time we've seen them come together throughout the movie, she's always been initiating the contact, right? And she technically does it here too. She's the one that sees him on the train and walks up to him and starts talking to him. But like, it feels important to me that he called her. He got like the agency it takes to actually do that, to like I want to see this person again.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I mean, it does feel different. And I think it does speak to what the movie is saying, is that the like experiences are beyond memory, that like a memory is not just like a thing that you can just zap out of the brain and it'll just be gone. It lives in there somewhere anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't get, like, the way love and memory are tied together. It's like, it's not something you can delete. You can maybe get rid of the experience, but the feeling is still there. And I mean, we see this reflected in our main relationship, but we also see it reflected in Kirsten Dunst's character, Mary, with her love of Tom Wilkinson's character. I think that's, we see it kind of with the Elijah Wood character, who I actually want to talk about a lot. I appreciated what the story was doing with those side characters a lot more. It's kind of Shakespearean, isn't it? That you have your main love story, but you have all these side plots going on that are kind of played for laughs, but also I think enhance what the themes of the story are.
Yeah, absolutely. All of those things are different takes at the same ideas, that you can almost imagine he had a bunch of different ideas of how to approach this premise. And in the end, he kind of stuck with one main through line, but then integrated the other concepts into, side into the side character stories. Just a guess, but I mean, that's sort of maybe what it feels like to me.
Yeah, sure. I love, so I never noticed before that it's literally 18 minutes until the opening credits begin in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
It's I think in the olden days of film and not digital, I think it's literally the entire first reel before the opening credits come up. And that's so interesting to me because the movie starts like just a meet cute, right? Like it's a standard meet cute, although it's a standard meet cute under the guise of Charlie Kaufman and Michel Gondry. So it's just a little bit weird. There's a really interesting touch in it where, like, I love the choice of the music that they play on the train when they start talking to each other. This kind of irreverent, goofy music. It just feels off for a scene like that in a romantic story.
Yeah.
But it really introduces us to like the type of movie we're gonna have. But I loved, like, it's been so long since this movie came out, and I've seen it so many times that I've kind of forgotten what it was like to experience it for the first time, almost as if someone's erased that from my memory.
Indeed.
But I was really trying to think of what it would have been like to walk into this movie without knowing anything about it. And this first 18 minutes of the movie, give or take, plays like just a standard, if a little awkward, romance story. And then Kaufman and Gondry kind of go nuts from there in a lot of fun ways. I really appreciated what those 18 minutes were doing for us, actually.
I mean, definitely on a rewatch. I think that the first time I saw this movie, I was actually very confused about the timeline because I was too dumb to pay attention to the hair color.
Yeah, they
motif.
gave you a cheat sheet.
Yeah, I mean, it's actually not all that complicated. It's not like we're jumping back and forth in time. There's the present and there's the past.
Yeah, well, and the past is just, I think the reason why people get confused is because the past is just Joel's memories of the past. And so it's they're as transitive as memories can be, where you're just jumping between timelines and you're jumping to different areas and things are bleeding into each other in really interesting and cool ways. And we have to make sure before we wrap this conversation up that we talk about Michel Gondry's direction of that, because I think that's just one of the, like, this is an incredible script, but it's also like this movie has staying power because it's the direction is just phenomenal.
Yeah, all of the depiction of the memories fading and details like where, you know, she like disappears under the covers and he's like crawling under the covers to chase after her, and it's like it's impossible that the bed could be this big, but it's this great dream logic. And it's just such a great visual. And
it's all, so much of this movie was done practical. Like there's very little computer graphics in here. Like I love the use of forced perspective when Joel is a child. I don't know why. I really get a kick out of the scene where he's hiding under the table as the 4-year-old and she's playing Kate Winslet's playing the part of the adult neighbor.
Yeah.
I love the choice to do that in this really interesting Lord of the Rings-esque forced perspective.
Yeah, I do too. You know, here's another comment. Just I keep thinking about, I can actually remember the first time I saw this movie in flashes, almost as if someone failed to completely erase my memory. And I guess this could be a criticism, which would be the first time I saw this movie, I was so like desperately invested in the resolution of, is he going to be able to save his memories of Clementine, that I was like not into the humor of him being a kid. I was like, I was not emotionally open to there being a comedy scene here, because I was like, no, the stakes are way too high for this comedy. And then of course, when you know how it ends, you can, you know, that element of tension goes away because you know how it ends. And so you can approach it differently. But I just, you know, it's always interesting to think about how things tonally can play differently when you know how the story ends, I think.
I mean, I don't know. Did you not, again, I don't remember my first experience with this movie. Did you not catch up on the fact that it had to have worked because they don't remember each other?
I think I was probably too stupid to figure that out. Yes. And also I might have hoped that like, well, maybe it's like buried in there somewhere. I mean, it sort of does work because she says, meet me in Montauk. And then she's at Montauk too, which I think, again, I was too dumb to figure out what was happening there. And it's like, well, they obviously had this powerful memory of this place that they met on this particular day that was important, and it was powerful enough to draw them both there. And that's kind of what it is. The
day he wakes up having the procedure done, he meets her again and starts dating her again. Like that, it's that same day. It's wonderful.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of love what the movie's saying about like the nature of love, because it's like they are kind of a terrible match, but they're kind of a great match.
Yeah.
And it's like, what are you talking about, Matt? It's like, I don't know, man. They get along really well. They just also are a pain in each other's asses. And like, that's kind of common for human beings.
They're kind of messes of people. And I mean, it's a movie that doesn't hide the fact that like being in a relationship doesn't make you less of a messy, terrible person at times. Like, and I love that about it. I mean, like you can kind of see a version of this movie in which Kate Winslet is the manic pixie dream girl. And it almost seems in that first 18 minutes that that's what they're going with. But I mean, she's brutally honest about how much of a mess she is. And we see throughout the course of the movie that that's absolutely true. She's a mess. She's an absolute mess. She like goes through wild changes in emotion and energy, and so does Joel. Like I'm not just throwing everything at Clem. Joel is so clearly depressed throughout most of this movie. And actually that's a fun anecdote that Jim Carrey was going through depression during the filming of this movie, and when they were considering casting him for this movie, and Michel Gondry said to him, Jim, don't get better. It's working great. and I think he told about this in an interview where he's like, this is how fucked up this industry is, that like I was told don't cure your depression because it's going to be great for my movie.
Oh my God.
But I mean, look, he's amazing in this movie. Like he's so good, and he's not doing any of the typical Jim Carrey stuff.
Yeah, right. This was a big surprise to everyone back when it came out, right? I mean, I don't remember I feel like The Truman Show was before this.
It was, yeah.
But in any case, this is like a romantic drama, not even a romantic comedy. This is just
I mean, and it's to me, it's not even that it's a different type of movie than what he normally does. He's just playing a very different sort of character. Like even like The Truman Show is a much more dramatic, emotional movie, yes, but Jim Carrey's still kind of doing a broad, energetic performance in that.
Mm-hmm.
In this movie, he's intentionally playing every one of his memorable qualities down. Like he's not funny. Not intentionally funny. He's not boisterous. He's not loud. He's soft. He mumbles. He's kind of like frumpy. Like it's like, Jim, do everything different from all the reasons why everyone loves you, and have it work. And I do think it's like we've lived with knowing that Jim Carrey is capable of this performance for so long. We do forget how much of a incredible surprise it was the first time we saw it.
Yeah. What's interesting is, of course, it's not like he's not acting. He's absolutely inhabiting the body of a person who's extremely uncomfortable and awkward, and acts like his arms and legs are too long and he doesn't know what to do with them. And he's always like hunched over and his legs are drawn up like he's, a spider that's been stepped on. And just he's absolutely doing his physical acting. It's just physical acting in a way that transforms him into a depressed little guy.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. And all the while doing it across from I was going to say one of, but why am I holding back? The greatest living actress, Kate Winslet. My favorite actress, one of the best actresses of all time. She's phenomenal in this movie. And Jim Carrey is having to do all this stuff opposite her and pull it off. And I think the fact that he's able to do that is remarkable. And she's wonderful. Like, again, this could have been, there were so many movies in this time and I fell right into them because I was a hopeless romantic young person that wanted the dream girl. That's the manic pixie dream girl thing. Whenever someone makes fun of that trope, I kind of get my hackles up a little bit instinctively because I was like, yeah, but I like that thing. Like 500 Days of Summer. You remember that movie? Like that was, that's my dream girl. That's my dream girl right there. Zooey Deschanel. And I feel like a less actress makes Clem more closer to that archetype. But I think Winslet breathes so many different facets of who this person is into her in a way that she's more than just a stereotype. She's more than just an archetype. She's more than just Joel's vision of a perfect girl. She's actually almost the exact opposite of that. She's like, at times you're like, you wonder, why does he want to be with this person? Why do they want to be together?
Yeah.
Like, why?
I like that the movie has the conceit of like the sort of relationship autopsy tapes that you hear playing in the background at various times, because, he'll say stuff like, her personality draws you in and makes you imagine that she's going to be your salvation. And it's like, yeah, but she specifically told you not to do that. And also like she's aware that she comes off that way, but she's just a person and it's not her fault. Yeah. It's just her personality. I mean, some people just have a really magnetic personality. Like I think the place where I get just I roll my eyes when people talk about the manic pixie dream girl thing is it's like, look, like some people have really attractive but like magnetic personalities, and that's not the same thing as a manic pixie dream girl. That's just some people are actually like that, and it's for most people. They're going to be attracted to someone who has that kind of like energy and confidence and boldness, like those are attractive qualities.
This is again why this movie spoke to me so personally, because the girl I was seeing around the time this movie came out was that type, not manic pixie, but she was charismatic. She was outspoken. She was all the things I wish I was myself.
Right.
At the time, I was very still in my shell type of person. Believe it or not, folks, I didn't used to talk all the time to people. I don't know how you can believe that, but she was a version of the person I wanted to be. And so the idea that this person is interested in me was like the most validating thing I'd ever experienced. And of course, you're putting a lot of pressure on that person that they shouldn't have put on them, because that's not their fault. Like none of this is their fault at all.
Yes, this is a classic young person mistake, to date a person who you, because of the qualities you want them to impute onto you.
Yes.
Instead of like for who they are, bringing your own kind of whole self to the table. Because I mean that is the mistake Joel's making too. Like he thinks that he sucks. Like he's always saying, I'm just not very interesting. I don't have any interesting thoughts. Nothing I could possibly say would be interesting. It's like, Jesus, Joel.
Yeah.
Like get your shit. Like you think.
What a pickup line.
Yeah. I mean, you think Clementine's a mess, but like you have such a low opinion of yourself. Like he's an artist. He clearly has thoughts.
Oh, his art is incredible. Like that's the thing. Like it's such a non-focus of the movie, because so much of the movie is through Joel's perspective that we just see it in like fleeting glances and stuff. But it's like, holy shit, it's really good. Yeah.
Right. But he doesn't, it's not important to him because he's too busy. You know, I think it's a sort of relationship that I think a lot of people have. I definitely had this sort of relationship as well, where it's like, you know, the more charismatic and bold partner, and me being like, this is cool. Yeah. I wish I were more like that.
Yeah.
And I think now that I'm like much farther away from that, I can have some perspective on myself, and thus have some perspective on the Joel character, who's the one I was identifying with, and see that, you know, Kaufman has done something very, you know, insightful with this sort of construction of these two characters.
Yeah. And I mean, the important part about that, Matt, is you remember that experience so that you can learn from it, which is, I think, one of the things that this movie is doing, is showing this idea that we should just be able to remove the pain so we don't have to deal with it anymore, is destructive, and it leads to a cycle. Like I think the Mary character, Kirsten Dunst's character, is such a great example of that. Is like, first of all, this idea that you wanted to do it, you wanted to delete your memory of our affair. I don't believe that for a second, right? I like, the doctor definitely like pressured her into doing it, right?
Because when you hear the video, she's like, I don't know, and he's like, we agreed this was for the best.
Yeah. She totally did not want to do it at all, and was tricked into it. And of course, it doesn't solve the problem, because she's still there. She still has the feeling. She just doesn't remember acting on those feelings, and so it leads to she's not learning anything. She's still allowing herself to be like used by him in certain ways. And nothing gets solved there. And so obviously the conclusion of this movie is that like this kind of service, were it to exist, is monstrous and terrible. And you shouldn't want to do this. It's not going to actually make you better in any tangible way.
Yeah. It's always better to, if you have some kind of trauma that you remember, it's always better to process it and get to a place where you can live with it and learn from it. And especially for something like just, you know, a bad relationship. I mean, I love the unfolding of like her choosing to erase him impulsively, and then him doing it basically out of revenge almost, and then immediately regretting it. Like that just totally seems like the choices that these two characters would make.
Yeah, totally. I think 100%. And he changes his mind about changing his mind. I think one of my favorite lines is there any risk of brain damage? Well, I mean, this technically is brain damage. And it's like, you guys are insane. Like, that's one thing that I love about the aesthetic of this whole thing, is that they're doing basic like brain surgery on these people and doing brain damage. And the way it's treated is so casual and indifferent. Like, I love the idea of like, Patrick and Stan, Elijah and Mark Ruffalo, and then later Kirsten Dunst's character like getting high and drinking while this brain damage, this incredibly traumatic brain damage is going on internally in Joel. They're just super, super chill about it. It's so weird. It's just so like, it's almost as if this company represents like they treat memory as if it's just like a file on a computer, right? Like that's what they see it as. And so, having an IT guy to come in and clean up your files, yeah, you're not as worried. No, this is a person. This is their life experiences. It's one of the most important. It's the only thing that defines who we are is our memories, right? In a lot of ways, like the way we experience the world and the way we remember those experiences are define who we see ourselves as and who we are. And they're just so indifferent to them. It's wild to me.
Yeah, it's a great science fiction conceit, and the boringness of it. I think I think anyone else's vision, they do like a high tech sci-fi device, and it's like, no, this is just like a boring doctor's office. You fill out forms, you answer questions. It feels very grounded, right?
Yeah, and the computer's like old, and like the tech is like hundreds of cords, which I think there's like a throwaway line when Elijah Wood is like, why are all these wires?
Yeah.
It's because it's brain surgery, Elijah. The production choices to really make it seem low tech. I mean, there's no explanation actually towards how it works, or very little, and there doesn't need to be. But it feels low tech. It feels unsafe. It feels like there's no way the government would sanction you doing this to people.
Right.
And I think that's part of the charm of the movie.
Yeah. You sort of feel like he's just invented this procedure and he's just doing it.
Yeah.
And there's no legal regime because no one understands this is a thing yet. Because like it's sort of a minor but I think important plot point that all the characters are like, this isn't a thing. This isn't real. There's no memory erasing company. And it's like, well, yeah, they don't really advertise because then everyone would know.
Yeah. Well, and I love the idea of sending the card to to the friends of the couple that are just like, Clementine has erased Joel from her life, so never mention him to her again. You're like, what?
Yeah.
What? Like, of course, David Cross's character is like, no, I'm showing him because this is insane.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. If this happened to your friend, you would just be like, I have some kind of moral duty to like intervene here. This is a nightmare. I noticed one thing this time I don't think I ever noticed before, which is, you hear Kirsten Dunst answering the phone in the office, and the first time you see it, you don't really know what the context is of what you're hearing, but then now you realize she's saying like, I'm sorry, we can't book you until next week. Oh, yes, I know it's an emergency, but you can't have the procedure 3 times in the same month or something like that. And then and you're like, Jesus, like there are people who are like basically addicted to this now.
Oh yeah, it's incredibly destructive and terrible.
Yeah.
I think the most tragic one for me is the old woman sitting in the waiting room with all her dog stuff.
Yeah.
Like her dog has clearly died and she's like, I can't deal with this. I want to, it's sad. And but it's frustrating. It's like, you're just avoiding. You're not solving anything. This is a terrible business. And I mean, there is something wonderful and triumphant in the ending when Kirsten Dunst basically shuts it all down and gives all the files back to their people and says like, this is for you. You have the right to know this. It's like, it's interesting because I don't know. Do you think there's an argument around ignorance being bliss in this regard? Like, was she happy before she knew?
I think it was a false happiness. Well,
sure.
I don't think she was happy. I think she was just the same.
Yeah.
Like I think we really lack the vocabulary to talk about this sort of thing because people talk about like, people behave as though relationships are going to make you happy.
Mm-hmm.
And that's never true. Like that's just not how that works.
Sure.
In fact, this is yet another thing where the movie kind of landed differently to me, where, the movie ends with her saying like, look, I'm just going to dislike you and you're going to dislike me. And we're just going to end up in the same place. And he says, okay. And like, I think that's great now because I'm like, good. They get to have all of those great memories that we saw them make together, and maybe they'll end up in the same exact place where they dislike each other. Maybe not, but maybe so. And if they do end up in the same place where they kind of loathe each other a little bit, they'll still have had all those great moments of happiness together.
Right.
And I see that as as a good thing, and also, there's the outside chance that maybe this go around they've matured slightly. They understand what their problems are a little bit better, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, like as long as two people want to be together, they should get the opportunity to try to make that work, regardless of what's happened in the past. And I think that's one of the things the movie is saying. And I think it's a hopeful ending too. I love that last line. I love the okay, and and I love the moment of her walking into his house and his tape being playing, and it's like it's a really great touch because it's all the nastiest thing you can think of about a person, because it's coming at the end of a relationship's worth of frustration, and of course it's only the nasty stuff you're thinking of in that moment. So that's the wild thing about memory, is that like in certain moments you choose to remember the bad stuff and only the bad stuff, and you'll look back on your relationship and be like, God, what was I thinking? This was awful. It was awful the whole time. And you're just selectively forgetting the good stuff.
Yeah.
And then at the other time, you're looking back wistfully on a relationship and being like, God, I really blew that. Like, that was the best relationship I'll ever be in. And of course, you're selectively forgetting all the stuff that frustrated the hell out of you.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, what you hear Joel doing on the tape at the end is that thing where he's like narrativizing his relationship and Clementine into being this terrible, manipulative person who we kind of know is unfair. Like you said, we don't spend that much time with real life Clementine, but we do kind of know that's him like finding a way to villainize her.
Yeah.
And just twisting things to make her look really bad so that he can distance himself from the pain, which is, of course, everyone does this.
I think one thing we can absolutely say with certainty is that had they not been told and given the evidence that reminds them of their previous relationship, they would have just repeated the same thing. Like, I think that's one thing the movie is saying. Like, they met again, they were going to go through this thing again, and it would have ended the same way because they didn't have the experience of the last time to teach them. Like, I think being able to listen to yourself say the worst possible things you have or could ever think about the person that you loved, maybe allows you to contextualize yourself a little bit. Like, I think there's hope for them in the second go around because they both remember how everything went wrong the first time.
Yeah. I mean, I think that there's a lot of sort of delusion that goes into relationships, especially for younger people. Not that Joel and Clem are supposed to be that young, but
yeah. What I mean, they 30 somethings, 20 something. I can't even.
I mean, they behave like younger people. Is what is all I'll say there. I mean, they're not in the Clem is the fact that Clem wants to have a baby and it's important to her. Just based on all the human beings I've known, I'm like, I think they're late 20s.
Yeah, I think that feels right to me. Like 27, 28.
Yeah. So that's sorry. I'm gonna do a sidetrack to something I wanted to say a second ago, which was just like, there's an interesting plot thing the movie does where I wouldn't have thought that it would work, but I think it does, which is we're jumping between Joel running through his mind trying to hold on to the memories of Clem, and Clem and creepy ass Frodo like going through this ordeal where she's freaking out. And it's interesting because like that kind of doesn't go anywhere. I think it's almost, from a plot perspective, it doesn't go anywhere. It's really just a way for us to get to know like what's going on with Clem. Like, where is she right now? Okay, she knows something's wrong, but not what exactly. Elijah Wood is creeping her out because he's saying these things that she kind of recognizes but doesn't know where from, and it's driving her crazy, and she's kind of having a meltdown. But like, it doesn't culminate in anything, right? I guess it culminates in her telling Elijah Wood to fuck off. But
yeah,
I don't know. Do you have a different take on the kind of the, like, because I'm not saying I dislike it. I'm not saying it doesn't work. I'm just saying it's a choice where I'm like, oh, I would have tried to like make that be like a load bearing plot element when it really isn't. And I don't think it actually needs to be. And I just think that's interesting.
Yeah, no, I think that would be a mistake, I think, to try to make it a load bearing element. I think it works exactly as what you said it is. I think it works to kind of show the I mean, it helps paint the company as these terrible people who do these terrible things, because this is a guy that works for the company that is abusing his position to manipulate a girl into liking him. But it also shows that it is not the memories themselves, in and of themselves, that dictate behavior, right? Like, he's just recreating the memories exactly, but with him in the place of Joel, and she can't deal with it. It's wrong to her because it is not just the memory; it is the love and the emotion and the untangible below all that stuff that makes those moments. And so you can't, like, it goes in again that these aren't files on a computer that you can just bring up and press play on and it'll work again. It's something else.
Yeah, it's the connection. And I mean, just imagine how creepy it would be for like a guy on like a second date to be like, oh, I'm just so happy I could die. Like, oh my God, what the hell is happening?
It's such a weird, he's such a, God, Elijah Wood does such a good job of being a really creepy, squirrely, awful guy.
I love how no one likes him.
Yeah. Kirsten Dunst, like the reaction that she has when he opens the door and he puts on the googly eyed glasses to try to make her laugh. And she's just like, oh, hi.
Uh-huh. Yeah. She goes and pours drinks and then she's like, oh, you didn't want any, did you?
Yeah. Nobody likes him. He's awful.
Yeah. They're just trying to get him to leave the whole time. And then he does. Yeah.
The only person that even likes him for half a minute is Clem, and only because of the memories.
Right.
And I love when he gives her the jewelry.
The present. Yeah.
Yeah. And she's like, what is it? And he's like, open it and find out, because he doesn't know.
Right. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my God. He's so awful. But like I said, like, I do love the inclusion of that. And I love the relationship between Mark Ruffalo and Kirsten Dunst, complicated by Kirsten Dunst's obvious love and affection for the Doctor. I love her trying her hardest to impress him with the Nietzsche quote and then the Pope Alexander quote that gives us the title of our movie. Have you read that poem, actually?
No, I haven't.
It's a very, very long poem, but it's like, I looked it up before we started because I was curious, and it's about two people that eloped, and the man was castrated because his family didn't like it, and he asked her to go to become a nun. And so, like, the quote is actually talking about her virginity and her purity and her sinlessness because of how she's, like, as a nun, like, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, forgotten by the world and the world forgot. Like, she's just off to the side. Like, so it's just one of those things where it's just used for the way it sounds. And like, this talks about forgetting. And I think that's perfect because, like, Mary doesn't understand it. She's just trying really hard to impress him because she thinks this is the type of thing that he would be impressed by.
And it's also, I mean, it's ironic because it is incorrect within the frame of the movie, that the idea that the way to obtain this spotless mind is to erase all of the spots, all of the stains, all the bad memories, is like, no.
Well, and that leads to eternal sunshine, right? Like, happiness. People are most happy when they are innocent and pure and don't remember the bad stuff.
Yeah,
and that's
exactly.
It's bullshit. It's total bullshit.
Yeah, I mean, life is messy. That's sort of one of that's almost a theme of Charlie Kaufman's work is the messiness of life, because so many of his stories, like I said, are so like complex and rambling in a way where he's sort of talking about how real life, real psychology, real relationships defy this flattening into the tropey understanding that we usually get from, typical storytelling.
Yeah. Have you watched I'm Thinking of Ending Things yet?
No.
You gotta watch that movie, man.
I know. I need to. Hold on. I'm going to put that on my list.
It is much less straightforward than this movie is. You got to put that phone away. It's a real pay attentioner. But I think, I don't know. Like, adaptation is always going to be my favorite Charlie Kaufman film because it is speaking to all the things I love. It is speaking to storytelling, to creation, to love, to relation to it's doing everything that I love adaptation is. I love this movie too, but adaptation will always be my number one in the Kaufman verse. I'm thinking of ending things is up there though, man.
Uh-huh.
It really is.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I love all of his films. I think he's a fantastic storyteller and writer and, you know, psychologist. It's just, this is, you know, the sort of the tightest story, and it's kind of the simplest message to walk away with. Like a lot of his movies, you walk away with them and you're like, all right, gonna need to talk through this one. What was this movie about? Whereas this movie, you're like, yeah, I get it. I get what you're going for. Although, you know, it's interesting
I like getting to do that though.
Sure,
like I
of
like
course.
getting to, like, I would love to have an hour-long conversation with you trying to pick apart I'm thinking of ending things to get to the bottom of what we think it's saying.
Yeah. I mean, being John Malkovich is a movie where it's a wild ride, and I enjoy it a lot, but I can't honestly say that I know what the like thematic through line is, and that's kind of fine. Like I don't like to reduce storytelling down to like, he didn't check these 12 boxes that all stories have to check, so it's bad. Sure. He's not trying to be that kind of storyteller, but it does make it harder. It makes it harder for us to process as viewers simply because it's not following our checklist. So,
sure.
Yeah.
The movies make you do a little work, and sometimes you don't feel like doing work. This movie, I think, still makes you do some work, but definitely less than a normal Kaufman film.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Are we ready? Are you ready for the vote?
I think so.
I think I know the way you're going to vote on this.
Yeah. Shall I? I would love to have this in the canon. I think this, like I said, it's my favorite Charlie Kaufman movie. So if we have to pick a Charlie Kaufman movie, then this would be it. It's interesting. I wonder if it's my favorite Jim Carrey movie. I'm not sure if that's the case, but in any case, I think this movie belongs in the canon. What do you think?
Well, now I'm wondering if my favorite Jim Carrey movie is this peak Jim Carrey. I feel like you can't pick a favorite Jim Carrey movie that is not Jim Carrey doing his most Jim Carrey. So like
Batman Forever.
Sure. I think a lot of the 90s Jim Carrey stuff has aged pretty terribly, but it's still really fun. I struggle because obviously I love this movie. In most worlds it would be an easy yes. I do say, okay, but what if hypothetically we can only have one Charlie Kaufman film in this thing? And then that makes me go, fuck. Because I think if that's the stipulation I'm putting on myself, then I'm going to say no, simply because there's several other Charlie Kaufman films I think I'd rather have. But I think this is a beloved movie. I think it's a movie that's worthy of it, the love that people have for it. And so I'm going to say yes, but I will say, if this means that none of the other Kaufman films can get in, I'm disappointed.
Yeah. And I mean, Jim Carrey, Dumb and Dumber is my favorite Jim Carrey movie, actually.
That does feel like peak Jim Carrey.
Yeah. But that's not going to dislodge this movie. I think this is, and I think one of the benefits of having, the canon is like the list of movies that everybody should see. And this is definitely a movie that everybody should see.
I totally agree with that. Everyone should watch this movie. It's remarkable. And there we go. It's in. Yep. Okay. Not yet. The people at home have to vote first. And if you don't like this movie, if this movie didn't work on you, these are the opinions I'm kind of most interested in hearing, because I like when there are people that don't agree with me on stuff. So I really want to hear from you. If you're going to vote no, we say this every week and we usually don't get the emails or the messages. But if you are going to vote no on this one, please let us know why. It's not because I want to ridicule you or anything. I'm just curious because I want to understand what does and doesn't work on people.
Yeah, me too.
All right, so that is it for Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. Doof. Matt, let's talk about the newest Marvel Cinematic Universe movie. Did you go to a theater to watch Black Widow?
I took my kids to the movie theater.
Oh my God. How was that?
Well, they don't know how to be in a movie theater.
Oh no.
Because we haven't done that in a year and a half. And
oh no.
I think the littlest of them probably doesn't even remember what a movie theater is because she was so little the last time she went to one. So they wiggled a lot, but luckily there weren't many people in the theater. So the only person that it drove crazy was me. But that aspect of the experience aside, I like the movie a lot. Actually, it actually falls pretty high in my ranking of Marvel films. I think the drama, the character stuff was good, was great. I just thought it was really good. Thought it was really enjoyable. What do you think?
I enjoyed Black Widow. I was not expecting to, and I think it's really interesting. So there's a couple things I want to talk about with this movie. I guess we should say spoilers technically. I don't think we're going to go really in detail with stuff, but some people are really spoiler phobic. So this movie takes place between Captain America Civil War and Avengers Infinity War, right?
Correct.
And so it's a little weird to me that it's coming out now. I don't understand, Marvel, why you didn't release this movie after Captain America Civil War. Like I don't understand. That would have been perfect. And there is a little bit of something going on knowing the conclusion of Black Widow's storyline that suddenly this movie is here. I just like I enjoyed the hell out of the movie. I just think it's why didn't you just make it when it takes place? Why did you do that?
I mean, it's possible that they didn't think that it would do well. It's possible that they couldn't schedule, Scarlett Johansson to do the movie at that time. Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think actually now that I'm actually thinking about it, I think it probably has more to do with like they want to have a certain tempo of their big movies and they want to have a certain tempo of their smaller in-between movies, and to kind of keep the tempo they wanted to keep with the movies they wanted to do, they couldn't just fit it in the middle because then it wouldn't do well, and they didn't want to bump anything off their schedule because they didn't want to defer their sequencing further into the future, and the consequence was probably that it just got bumped until later and later. And maybe they also thought, hey, people are going to actually care more about Black Widow's character after she's dead, which maybe is slightly true. I don't know.
I don't know. That's the most interesting thing about this movie to me personally. I like I said, I enjoyed it. It is a different kind of movie from so many of the MCU movies of before. It is much closer to like a very low stakes spy movie for most of it. I think in the third act, it kind of dives headfirst into Marvelness to its detriment. But for most of it is just this small character study type story. I think the most interesting thing about it is I think Scarlett Johansson and Natasha gets lost in her own movie because everyone else around her is better. Like, I think, here's what I think about this movie. I think Florence Pugh owns this movie. Like, I know it says Black Widow. I think Florence Pugh gets all the best lines. She gets the best action scenes. She has the best arc. I don't know if this is like something they're doing intentionally because I think they're building her up possibly to be the next Black Widow. But I feel like if I'm ScarJo, like you wait 10 years to get your own movie, and then in your movie you're not even the best part of it. It's got to be like, oh man. And that's nothing against ScarJo herself. I think she's good. She's good in the movie. I think she's emotional when she needs to be. I love her scenes with her parents, quote unquote parents. I love the relationship between her and Florence Pugh's character. But I just think Florence Pugh is just the star of this movie, and I mean, she's one of my favorite actresses, so I'm fine with it. I just kind of feel bad for Scarlett Johansson.
Yeah, I think Florence Pugh had a more emotional arc actually. Mm-hmm. But no, I thought I don't disagree that she kind of stole the scene, but I thought that it was true to the character, I guess is what I'll say.
Sure. No, I think you're right. And
I think in terms of the ending action stuff, it was a bit long, but I thought that the part like the very end of the action scene, I'm gonna avoid just saying it specifically due to just the spoiler thing, which we already warned, whatever. When they're falling, I was like, that's pretty cool. Like I like that. I felt that, a lot of the stuff happening on the floating thingy, I was like, okay, I kind of know where this is going.
Yeah, I mean, okay, I want to talk spoilers with you. Okay, so let's just full spoilers warning.
Right. Okay.
I loved the Ocean 11-esque like reveal of the plan stuff on the floating fortress thing. but I did not like most of the action on there. I really did not like the break my nose to sever my nasal, like it's
nerve. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, just big reveal here. Black Widow cannot smell anymore.
Yeah. In Infinity War, she can't smell.
Yeah. I love how like she just puts her nose back in place and everything's fine. It's like, no, you said you severed a nerve.
It's funny because this movie gave us our justification, which is that she was selected for having spectacular genetics.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why she can take a hit. That's why she can be exploded out of a plate glass window and be fine. She just has really excellent genetics.
Genes. Yeah. Really good genes. Yeah. I loved the opening of this movie, man. Let me tell you, like, the like, it just doesn't seem. It just feels like nothing that you've seen in the MCU before. This like long extended opening where it feels like, I don't know if you ever watched the show The Americans. It's a I think it was on FX or I don't. It was on a channel. And it's about a family of Russian spies living in America, and I think like that was a huge inspiration for this opening scene. And I love that it takes the time to establish all these characters in the scene. And I love like David Harbour's character in this movie is kind of amazing.
Yes.
Because in that opening scene, he's being like attentive and fatherly, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then the second he gets back to the Russians, he's just like, you can tell that was entirely an act.
Yeah.
And it's just so shocking and surprising. And also he's doing a hilariously bad Russian accent and it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
I love it so much.
Yeah. I mean, he's comic relief, but also you like him and you want to see his arc conclude, right? His like over the top, melodramatic Russianness it just plays so well. I love the scene. I love when he goes into the bedroom to follow Florence Pugh to try to make things better with her, just like a dad would, and then he starts singing the song, and it's just like, this is good. This is fun. I like this, and I just all the little beats with him. You can tell he seems like a character who sort of grew on the page, because like the stuff where it's like he feels like he has this rivalry with Captain America when in actuality Captain America was in ice the entire time that he was active. So they never encountered each other, and he probably has no awareness of the Red Guardian at all.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it so much.
It's perfect because it makes the idea that this super soldier existed the whole time, we never knew about it because no one ever cared about him at all. Mm-hmm. It's really wonderful. I guess the only thing I want to talk to you about is the very end, which is the only part of the movie I actively hated, which is the post-credit sequence.
Yeah, I just kind of erased that from my memory.
This is what's really frustrating me with Marvel, is like, I know it's a post-credit sequence, it's not in the movie, but I think it was really touching to me that they gave Florence Pugh's character a moment with the grave of her dead sister, right? Like, this is a really emotional moment, and they just can't let that moment be that moment.
Yeah. It felt, it felt just like a moment out of Falcon and the Winter Soldier, where it's like, here's Elaine in the scene now, and you're like, what's happening? Am I supposed to care? What emotion am I supposed to feel about this? Oh, I'm supposed to feel this is an interconnected universe emotion, which is not an emotion. Whatever. And then there's the way it ends, where it's like, she's gonna have to fight hot guy.
She's gonna have to fight hot guy.
Yeah.
I mean, there's all kinds of MCU stuff going on behind the scenes with this thing. There is a Hawkeye show coming, and I guess she's going to be on it. I don't like. I'm just tired of it, man. Like, especially in a movie like this, where I loved that it wasn't interconnected with anything. I loved that it was just this small story about these four characters and the lives that they've lived and how that's shaped them. And I loved. I'm being a little hypocritical here because I love that we got to see what happened in Budapest, which is something that was talked about between Hawkeye and Black Widow again and again and again.
Uh-huh.
And that the thing that happened in Budapest was Black Widow killed a child. Or not really. She thought she killed a child.
She just named the child.
There can't be consequences in the MCU, so like we bring back the child. You don't worry, don't feel bad. You didn't kill her. You just turned her into a monster, and now you can kill her and not feel bad about it. That's how that works.
And now she's free, and she's gonna be fine. She's happy now.
Fine. She's gonna be totally fine.
I did so just purely on like an action fanboy level. I actually did like how I forget the name of that villain, Taskmaster, how Taskmaster was repeatedly using visual fighting motifs from the other movies.
Oh yeah, they did a really good job with that.
Yeah, like there are a few things in there where I'm like, I don't even know if I'm right, but I think like that little knife hand switch is a Winter Soldier thing.
Yes.
And that shield thing is obviously a Captain America thing. And then the claws from Black Panther and a few other things that kind of struck me in the moment as being like, I've seen that before.
I think that's well done. I think the action in this movie overall is pretty well done too. Like there's a lot of the action in these movies just gets kind of formulaic, but I think it's well filmed in this movie. I enjoyed it a lot. I mean, it's a good movie, right? Like I think it's if I had to list out my MCU movies, which I never would do because I don't like lists, it's somewhere in the middle, I think. I enjoyed it way more than I thought I was going to. That's for sure. Yeah, I did not have like high expectations going into this movie.
I agree. I mean, I think that on the level of me actually feeling emotions, it's in the top of the, well in the top half easily. And then in terms of the action, it's like probably still well in the top half just in terms of the action. Doesn't have quite as much of the sort of spectacle that you'll get with your Doctor Strange or your your Iron Man, but still very solid. Like I think I'm pretty picky when it comes to what's the word for people fighting with their fists?
I believe that's called fist fighting, Matt.
Fighting, just fighting, and I actually bought it in this movie. Like normally I'll roll my eyes if I'm like there's like that punch didn't look like it was right. There was no power behind that. That's fake. That's fake. That's fake. Like that. I always have an alarm bell from watching too much real fighting where I'm like, that's fake. And I mean, it is always fake because it's like, it's too perfect. Right. But, it was better than a lot of it is, I guess.
Yeah. There's a lot of very impressive camera tricks that you can use to hide the fakeness and not all movies do that. Yeah. I thought it was well done. I agree.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I feel like here's my problem. And this is not a problem with Black Widow, the movie. This is a problem with me and with the MCU, where I feel like this multiverse stuff has just broken everything. Because I don't know about you, but in that scene in the post-credit sequence before Julia Louis-Dreyfus came in and ruined everything, she does her little whistle thing. And I'm like, you motherfuckers are going to have a whistle back. Like Scarlett Johansson's going to whistle back and then you're going to go to black because no one ever dies in these movies because it's a multiverse now and there are actually infinite Black Widows and nothing matters. And I'm just like, this is where we're going. Yeah. This is where we're going. And I don't want to go there. I don't like, and I know that their stakes exist beyond is a person alive or dead. But I feel like the more we get into this comic book nonsense that is the reason why I don't read and like comic books, that it's just like, well, we can always bring him back. We can always bring him back. I don't want to do it. And I feel us going there. Like there's no way Scarlett Johansson is not going to play the Black Widow at some point again in this universe. Like there's no way that's not going to happen.
Yeah, it's just printing money. They're just leaving money on the table if they don't. And if it's not her, it's going to be Steve Rogers or it's going to be, Tony Stark or something. If only for like a moment, right? A cameo. And I agree. I mean, I haven't really felt that much until the Loki TV show, and then I really felt it, and then I had exactly the same thought that there was going to be a Scarlett Johansson, a Black Widow variant, possibly like with a different hair color or something, step out from behind the tree, and you're like, oh. So that was bad. I didn't like the post-credit stinger at all. I like the movie a lot, though.
Yeah, the movie succeeds in spite of that, and that's really encouraging, and I hope they keep making more movies like Black Widow and less things like Loki.
Yeah. And my kids liked Black Widow as well.
That's good.
They wanted to watch it at home immediately after we got home from the theater, which is a thing that we can do now because
you can
because of streaming.
That's actually a fun thing to end this conversation on, Matt, because we've been talking about what is this world of streaming going to do to the box office. And when Black Widow came out, it had a pretty great opening. I think it opened at 80 something million in the first weekend, which is, I mean, not great for pre-pandemic numbers, but the highest post-pandemic number. And then in its second weekend, it tanked more than any MCU film has ever tanked. I think it dropped by 67 to 69% over that weekend span. And so I think what you're seeing is either you're going to go out into the theater the first weekend and see it, or you're just going to rent it at home. And that's not good for the theater business at all.
Yeah, it's true. I think your analysis is spot on there. I think a lot of people probably did. I mean, the movie probably made a lot of money from Disney Plus.
Actually, yeah, they announced for the first time ever that it made $60 million. Its opening weekend. That I think they said, what's that? That's 2 million Disney Plus subscribers purchased the $30 thing. So it made $60 million.
Holy shit.
It's the first time they've released that number. And I mean, more importantly to Disney, they get to keep a shit ton more of that 60 million than they get to keep of the 80 million of the box office, right? They keep like, I think 60% of the box office. And of the Disney Plus subscriptions, they don't get to keep all of it because they think they have certain deals with, I think it's something like 85%. It's a lot more. So if you're Disney, you want that number. And that's a lot. I mean, it's still a very low percentage of their overall subscribers. I think there's 100 million Disney Plus subscriptions, something insane like that. So it's a low percentage, but when you're charging $30 a pop, it doesn't matter. I think this is really interesting though, because by releasing those numbers, have they fucked every other Disney premiere thing? Because like, if you're Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and you've got your big movie coming out in theaters, and I think it's next weekend, and it's also hitting Disney Plus Premiere at the same time. If Disney does not release your movie's numbers on Disney Plus Premium, the assumption is going to be because it tanked.
Maybe. I mean, I think for people like us, maybe that could be a sort of indicator, but I think the millions of people who, went to see Black Widow at the theater versus not, I don't think they know about that. But I mean, it is an interesting little marker, though.
I don't think that matters for public perception, but I think it does matter for like the way you as an actor or a filmmaker throw your clout around town in order to get your next job or your next paycheck or justify spending money on X and Y. If Disney keeps all this stuff secret, and then the assumption is they're only going to release figures when they're really, really good, then that makes life more difficult for you. So yeah, if I'm The Rock, if I'm Emily Blunt, if I'm whoever directed Jungle Cruise, I'm kind of annoyed because they better release all numbers from now on.
Yeah. Sure. I think you're right. It'll be interesting to see. I mean, I like having the numbers because I like to think about them and analyze them and stuff.
Yeah. I mean, and one of the things is the model is shifting, right? So, cause like so much of actor salary now is negotiated as like, I think they work at scale on a lot of Disney projects, which means like the minimum the union's allowed to pay you, but they always get a percentage off the back of the theater receipts. And because so much of this stuff is moving to streaming, like they're going to have to come up with new contracts that take into account the streaming version of that. And in order to do that, they're going to have to release that information outside the company. Like it's going to have to go to the agents of the actors and directors and crew members that all are getting paid based off of the back of things. And so like there needs to be some formalized way of getting this data and validating this data, because like there's no one auditing what Disney said last weekend when they said 2 million people bought this. There's no one checking that. Like they're probably not lying, but They could have.
Yeah. You're right. This is you got to imagine that Disney is going to use this new fact that they have this data and they don't have to share it. Like they're going to use that. They're going to use that to their advantage.
Well, and this is a thing Netflix has been doing for years, right? Netflix will like proudly say like Bird Box was the most watched movie ever on our platform. And you're like, well, what do you mean by that?
Right.
Are you counting a person that like presses play and then turns it off in 10 seconds? Like, what does that mean?
Yeah. and of course they're under no obligation to tell you that they're literally just saying it to as a form of advertisement, actually, to be like, you random person should watch Bird Box because everybody's watching it. We could be making this up. You don't know. Yeah, we're definitely. I think your notion of there being some sort of like regulation or something, or maybe not an explicit regulation, but some kind of like audit process is something we might see eventually, just because there's like a lot of different stakeholders who have an interest in these numbers, and there's value in there being some ground truth there.
I think the companies should develop their own group, kind of like they did with the MPAA. Not that the MPAA is like a good organization, but like basically what happened is the studios realized that if they didn't make their own regulating board, then the government was going to, and they said, well, at least we'd be able to control it this way. I think that's the way to do it, because like I feel like there's this much money involved, the government's going to get in eventually. Just make your own regulating group and figure some way to standardize and audit this.
Yeah.
And then we can stop worrying about what these numbers mean.
Yeah. I mean, with this sort of thing where it doesn't fucking matter, I always think that the industry should form their own bodies rather than, I mean, the government doesn't, there's no reason the government should get involved in this, right? But I think that'd be, I will view that as a prediction that something like that will happen at some point.
I agree.
Maybe not for a while though.
Yeah.
Last comment on this movie, I actually liked Rachel Weisz' performance.
Oh yeah, we didn't talk about her. I am in love with Rachel Weisz.
Yeah, she's great. It's funny. I was thinking like she hasn't been anything in a while, and I looked it up, and it's like no, she's been in lots of things. You just haven't seen them.
Yeah.
The last thing I saw was The Lobster, which is of course a genius film.
That's a very good movie. I did not like it the first time I saw it, and then I warmed up to it a lot more after that.
I'd like to talk about that with you sometime.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to talk about that director with you.
Yeah, Yorgos Lanthimos.
Yes, he's a lot of movies that are really good. He reminds me in certain ways of Charlie Kaufman in the kind of askew way he looks at the world.
Non-standard storytelling for sure.
Yeah, definitely. But that's for another episode. For now, we are finished. So if you have any opinions on Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind or on Black Widow, thank you. You can reach out to us via email at doofmedia@gmail.com or on Twitter @doofmedia. And remember, there is a link in the show notes of this very episode you are listening to right now. Go click on that link and vote whether or not Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind should be entered into the canon or not. Yes or no. And if you're voting no, please let us know. I'm begging you. You can comment on the post itself. You can DM us or message us on Twitter. You can send us an email to doofmedia@gmail.com. Just let us know. We want to hear from you, please.
Absolutely. Yeah. If you're not already subscribed to the Doofcast, we encourage you to do so and ensure you never miss an episode. You can find us on iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, Google Play, and pretty much anywhere else podcasts can be found.
And you can find this and all of our shows over at our website, which is doofmedia.com. That's where you can see, God, we got so many shows now. We got the Game Club, we got the Book Club, this is kind of a film club. We've got Pale in Comparison. Actually, our friends at Pale in Comparison are releasing a sister show to that show called Our Mom Critiques Wildbow, in which they have their mother read some chapters of Pale, and then just talk about it on the podcast for like an hour. It's delightful. It's so fun. Not everyone that's listening to this has probably read those stories. You should read them, and you should definitely listen to Pale in Comparison and Our Mom Critiques Wildbow.
Yes.
Because it's a lot of fun.
They are very fun stories, and they are very fun podcasts.
Also, if you like what we do here and want to support us, consider becoming a patron of Doof Media. Head on over to patreon.com/doofmedia. That's where the vote will be this week. So while you're there, consider donating to us at any of those available levels. Of course, you can always become a member of the council that are the folks that nominate these movies for us to watch. We send them a nomination form once a month, and they send us some movies, and then we allow them to collectively vote on which of those movies we will talk about. And so they brought Eternal Sunshine to us. So thank you so much, Council. And if you want to join the Council, you can do it there. So head on over to patreon.com/doofmedia and look into what being a council member gets you.
Yeah. Also, please consider rating and reviewing the Doofcast on Apple Podcasts. Each review does help us get more exposure and introduces new people to the shows that we're doing here.
That is right. Reviewing is extremely important. All right, folks, that is it for us this week. Next week, we will actually be off because Matt is going on vacation for like the first time in 18 months. Congratulations, Matt. We will still have an episode for you. I recorded an episode with my friend Adrian. For those of you that are longtime listeners, we did a show called Phantom Zone way back in the day, where we reviewed absolutely terrible movies and just joked around about them for about an hour. So we did an episode of that earlier this month, and I'm going to go ahead and release that next week. So check that out. You'll see that next week. And then after that, Matt and I will be back to finish up with our good friend Gore Verbinski. So in August, we're going to finish up our Verbinski series.
Awesome.
We'll see you folks in a couple weeks.
My name is Doof, and you'll do what I say. My name is Doof, and you'll do what I say.